Stop doing acid. Go to church. You're about to have some wild, real stuff happen to you.
Before we get to our clip, do us a favor and click subscribe and that bell button below. 2/3 of people who watch us regularly aren't yet subscribed, and it really supports the channel when you do subscribe. It's free, costs nothing, and I really appreciate it.
So, last year, my grandfather passed away. Now, my grandfather's the most important person in my life, or he was. He's the best man I've ever known. He's a truly good man, a saint. I'm not joking. He was true goodness. He grew up a Swiss immigrant. He fought in World War II. He married his wife after knowing her for not very long. He stayed with her for 55 years, took care of her when she was sick till she died. He married another woman after she passed away. She got sick, took care of her until she died. Never let his children down, never let his wife down, never spoke ill of anybody, was kind to everyone he ever met, was so good to me. I remember how I told you that I went to Christmas and my step grandparents purposefully didn't get me gifts. My grandfather made sure every birthday and every Christmas to get me and my brothers the exact same thing so that we were never better or worse than the other. You could count on $20 and that remote control car, or every Christmas we would all get the same thing. He would never forget any of us. If he took one of us on a trip, he would take each of us individually or all of us together. He was perfectly fair, truly the kindest man. Good. He grew up a conservative immigrant from Switzerland. Never once asked me about my tattoos, never asked me about weird hair or piercings or any of my phases. He loved me unconditionally. He never made me feel awkward. He never questioned me. Truly such a good man. So I love him and he's so important to me. We become very close near the end of his life when I'm more of a man, because when I was young, I was just all over the place. I never really hung out with him. So he's very old. He lived to be almost 101. So he begins to die and I go, well, I don't care about my work. I don't care about my career. I don't care about my job. I'm moving to Utah to be with him as he dies. So I moved to Utah. Me and my brother and my mom make it our mission to be with him as much as possible till he passes away. He's, by the way, so unreal tough. The toughest man I've ever met. He worked like 13 hours a day for like 50 something years. Was in the Dairy Workers Union. He'd been working since he was like 13, full-time job. Crazy guy. So he has a heart attack at like a 99 or 100 years. He had a heart attack at 100 years old. We were like, oh, he's dead. I go to just see him right before he dies. Makes a full recovery. And then they're like, well, he's on a hospice. He's clearly going to die. His pacemaker stopped working. So he should just die any day now. And he just refused to die. He was fine. He's walking around now. He recovered totally. And we're like, what? No, you're supposed to be dead, man. Just go. You want to die. Because he would be like, I should have died like 15 years ago. No one I know is alive. You guys don't need me here. So I'm just like, all right. So he told me that I was like, just die. And he was like, dying's a choice and I refuse to make it. God can come get me. So I was like, woo, all right. If the Japanese weren't going to get him, no one was, you know what I mean? And so he was hardcore. And so he lives for like 6 months and finally he passes away. We're all with him. He passes away peacefully. It's beautiful. I thought my whole world was gonna end, and I just felt kind of at peace with it. We had so much preparation, and he was so brave, so courageous in death that I just, as a man, couldn't allow myself to fall into despair in any way.
So he was cognizant the whole time.
And right up until the last 2 days. Truly so courageous that I just couldn't be affected I couldn't fall into despair. Of course I was sad. I wept and all these other things, but like no despair. Interesting. I remember asking my mom, I go, should we get him a priest? Which is a weird thing to even think of. I don't know why I thought of it. And she goes, no, I don't think so. And I was like, well, okay. And so later I'm having these he passes away and we're all fine. We stay together as a family. We're doing well and we're staying strong and everything's going good. And I begin to have these weird dreams about going to church and just talking to people who aren't there. And I'm like, all right, that's odd to have that more than once. I don't dream a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not a big dreamer. I'm a daydreamer, that's where I get all my dreaming done. So I'm like, that's odd. And I'm like compelled to go to church in a way that I don't know how to describe. You know how when you're single and you see a very beautiful woman, you're like, oh, like you're drawn to speak to her in a way.
Yes.
That's how I feel. I'm like, this is insane. I've never even, why would I go to church? I have a very good life. I don't care. And so it's like odd. I'm like having this feeling like I need to go. And I start to like read about church and I'm just kind of like looking, I'm like, why would I feel this way? I like to, if I feel something, I like to ask myself questions and go through it very point by point. So I'm like, okay, it's weird, whatever. And then I'm like starting to just feel like during the day, like you should go to church. You should. And I'm imagining this one time I went to a Catholic church. I just went in and I had like a kind of a beautiful experience. And I thought these are just beautiful people. And this is an ancient, beautiful place. That was what that was. So I'm like, I should go. And I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, I go to this doctor's appointment one day. And I'm leaving and I'm in like Provo, Utah. And I'm like, I'm going to go to church. It's like noon. I was like, I should just go to one. I'm just going to do it. Whatever. I'm compelled. I'm not, it's wild how this poll has me. Why am I thinking about this? It's an intrusive thought that's so powerful. So I'm like, all right, fine. I look up a church on my phone and there's like a Catholic church down the road. Now, mind you, I have no idea how this works. In my mind, I'm like, it's going to be closed. I guess I'll just go and then it'll be closed and I'm home free. I did it. I show up. It's a Catholic church. It's open. There's people in there, there's people in there. I think they might've been doing adoration. And so I'm like, I'm kind of walking and I'm like, I don't know where to go. And I walk into the chapel and I'm like, all right. And then there's like, all these Hispanic women and then they have veils on and they're like in deep prayer. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
They're
like
holding the church together.
Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, intimidating, it's scary. I don't want to interrupt them. So I'm like trying to creep into the thing and I like take a seat in the back and I sit at the pew and I kind of look up and I just go, now what? And I'm kind of like, what am I doing here? And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's just do it. And I put the kneeler down and I get on my knees and I put my hands up and I'm just looking at the cross. I'm looking at Jesus on the cross and I just start to cry. And I have this insane, like I'm not looking at anything. I don't mean to be like, I know it sucks when it's almost embarrassing to be like, oh, my conversion story is like, I had a supernatural experience. But like, because some people don't.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Catholics who are like, oh man, am I like, you have this like whole thing and then you have a supernatural story. I just feel good about it, you know? And it's like, but that's not it. I don't know. It is what it is. I think God gives you what you need, and he gives you just enough. Your free will is so important. Yeah. He loves you. Without free will, there's no love. So you have to give just enough. I think this is my theory that your free will maintains. So you always need to be able to make the choice. You always have to make the choice every minute of every day, every hour of every hour, every morning when you wake up. There's a choice to make. And if you get too much, you're not going to make that choice anymore. And it doesn't become a choice. And so I'm like, okay, I have this crazy experience, like this blinding light. And then I just start to weep and I just feel like I'm not alone. And I've been alone my whole life. I'm alone a lot. I'm alone when I'm around lots of people. I feel alone on stage. I felt alone in my childhood and I'm weeping and I'm crying. And then I look over and Mary is there and it's over for me. I am now...
Is this a statue or a vision?
A statue.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. This is a statue of Mary. And I have a vision of her. I'm not seeing her literally, but she's like superimposed in my memory to the point where I'm seeing her in front of me, and she's the mother, and it's this like feminine energy in this. It's this pure love, and it's like something I like. I don't even know how to explain. I don't know how to explain it. I truly don't. And it's like, it's the experience with a mother I'd never had and I needed. And I just started crying like so hard that these like Hispanic women were like, what the heck? And people are looking over like, is everything all right? And I'm just like, full like heaving sobs, and everyone's cool about it though. They just like, this Hispanic woman looks over and is like, yeah, it makes sense, and just like keeps praying the rosary, and it was so funny just have everyone kind of like look at me at once, and I was like, didn't even care.
You probably had some powerful prayers coming from those Hispanic grandmas.
Yeah, the concept of someone praying for someone else never occurred to me my whole life until recently, and so I'm crying, I'm having this vision of Mary, and she's like, I'm like bathed in warm love, and it's this experience that's so earth-shattering, and it's the moment. Everything is different now. It's one of my few everything is different now moments, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, that was the craziest thing. And I'm talking to God, and I'm saying like, I'm so sorry. I want to be better. These are all my faults. This is where I've been and what I've done. Like, do you love me? Like, and I just feel loved for the first time ever in a way that I truly have never felt, and I needed. And I leave, and immediately I'm like fighting this. I'm like, okay, well, I just had like a psychedelic experience. I just had an experience, and I had some bad steak. I had some whatever. And so I go home, and I don't tell my brother or anybody about it. And I can't stop thinking about it. And I'm just thinking about Mary, and I keep like getting emotional, just imagining her. Like, I keep hearing her say, I love you. And it's so real, and it's just like so powerful. It's so hard to describe how it feels. And she just keeps telling me she loves me. And it's like hard to, I'm getting emotional now even thinking about it. It's so pure and so good and so special, and she's so perfect. And it's the first time I'd ever seen a woman, and felt that way. I see women, and I have problems with lust, and I have problems with, our culture I've brought in. You see women in such a way, and I'm seeing this person, and I'm just seeing her as like a whole person and a woman for the first time in a very pure way. And I keep seeing her, and she keeps reassuring me that she loves me, and it's like, it's so beautiful. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. I'm going to go again. I'll go to church again one more time, and now we will see. And so, before I go to church, I talked to my mom, and the conversation was nothing about Christianity. I don't remember how she said it, but she said, yeah, Grandpa was Catholic. He disliked the church, I think. And I go, huh.
A lot of Catholics do. It's okay.
I had no idea that my grandfather was Catholic. He was baptized Catholic. He obviously went to Catholic school as a child, or he went to church. He might have been confirmed. I don't know. My grandfather's Catholic. Okay, weird. And so now I'm like, and mind you, he's not my biological grandfather, but he's my grandfather, and so he's Catholic. This blows my mind. I was just in a Catholic church. Mary keeps appearing to me and telling me she loves me in my imagination. This is freaking me out. And so I'm like, all right, fine. And so I look up a talk one day while I'm driving, and it's funny because I actually got a ticket because I wasn't paying attention, and it's Father Mike Schmitz. I got a ticket. That guy owes me $80. I ran a stop sign not thinking it.
I'll text him.
Yeah, let him know. He owes me $80. It was like a rolling stop. But anyway, in the talk, he was talking about, I just loaded up like some talk, and I just clicked on the first one, and I just wanted to learn. I had no specific questions, and it was by providence, it was randomly a talk about praying for the dead.
Okay.
Which is a concept I was like, what in the world? And so you Catholics pray for the dead. And he talks about these Bible verses and how it's like a beautiful thing. It's something, I can't remember his name in the Bible. He's at a graveyard and he's praying for the dead, and the dead pray for us. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm like, okay, pray for the dead. And so then I realized I'm going to go to church and pray for my grandfather. I'm going to talk to him. And so I do it. I go to church, and I go to the main church in Salt Lake City downtown,
Cathedral?
The cathedral, yeah, and it's the Madeline, and it's like this huge, beautiful church. I walk in, I'm kind of nervous, and I'm like, oh, great, it's open. Now I have to go in, and I'm getting in there, and I go sit down, and there's a lot of people in this one. And they're all just praying. And I'm like, all right, what's going on with this? I sit down and I'm like, all right, let's give it a spin. And I'm like, the cynical parts of me are fighting everything. I sit down and I go, hello, Grandpa. And I just start weeping immediately. And I'm like, I just hope you're okay. I think about you and I'm praying for him. And I was like, is that you? Are you telling me to go to church? Like, is Mary with you? What's going on up there? I don't even understand how this all works. And I was like, am I supposed to be here? Like, is this what you want from me? Is this stupid? Am I another person who's like, the story is like, oh, it's something bad happened and I became Christian. And it's just like, it's so embarrassing.
I leave my brain at the door. Accepting a myth to make me feel better.
Exactly. He just did this because he wants to make sense of this. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person. I'm rational. But this is real. This is happening to me. And I'm like, I'm like, if this is, I don't know if this is what you want from me, if you're praying for me or whatever, but like, I'm here. Is this good? And then I'm like, if God's up there, take care of him. And it's like affecting me a lot. And I have another experience. And then Mary's there and she's like, it's okay. You're okay. And Jesus is, and I'm like feeling all this and it's incredibly real. It's so real that it's like, I've done psychedelic drugs. It's not that. It's one more step. Stop doing acid. Go to church. You're about to have some wild, real stuff happen to you, and I'm like touched. Like in a way that is physical. It's real. This is happening to me. And I leave and I was like, all right, I'm Catholic now, I guess. And at that point, I'm like, well, I got to pray and I got to change my life. And my life is, I am sinning up a storm in my whole life, but especially recently, like my life is one big sin. And so I'm like, I got to change, and I'm like, I gotta do something. And I'm like, all right, so I got to read about the church. I got to figure this out. I think Catholicism is it. This is my grandfather's telling me, I didn't have vision. I felt compelled for this. And I'm a big rational guy. I'm a huge on history. So I start to read about the history of the church and I'm getting deep into it. I'm reading about the popes and the catechism and the church's teachings, and they're falling in line with all these things I believe separate from the church about how we should live socially and how we should share our wealth and how we should take care of each other. And now I'm seeing, like, I've dedicated a lot of my life to politics, and I don't really want to talk about them, but the church is doing things that I advocate for on a real material level. There are missions with young people inside of them that are feeding the homeless. They are no phones. They're doing real stuff for real people. They're giving people hope, and that's way more than I can say for these political organizations I was involved with or thinking about, or no one in secular is doing what the church is doing, and I'm like, wow, this is powerful. This isn't faith. This is a material thing. I can touch and feel and see this.